Hi, my name is Roland and welcome to my VectrexRoli show. Today we will have a closer look at one of the classic 1980s 8-bit home computers in my collection, the Commodore VIC-20 or VC-20 to be more specific, as this is the version sold in Germany and here in Austria back then, and that one had a slightly different name. I like 3D videos as it is much nicer to see the stuff in front of you, so that you get the feeling you can even touch it, so I also made a 3D version of this video here. If you are one of those people that say now, but 3D is just a gimmick, no it is not, even Mother Nature wanted humans to be able to see in 3D, and if you think that you might have just health issues with your eyes, or you don't own a glassless 3D display, or you just watched the wrong 3D movies so far. You can use any 3D capable device currently supported by YouTube, like the Nintendo new 3DS, 3D smart TVs, virtual reality devices, Google Cardboard or other virtual reality add-ons for iPhones and mobile devices. You cannot move your head around in a VR setup, so this is not a 360-degree video, as this would not make much sense in such type of video anyway, when I show you something on my desk in front of me, while you are watching the mess in the back or the dirt on my floor here. And I also don't want that people know that I always produce my videos being totally naked, which is not really that healthy as it can get quite cold here in my gaming basement. Anyway, if you don't want to watch it in 3D, it is also fine, just use the standard 2D version of the video and my VC-20 will not pop out of your screen. The VIC-20 computer is quite interesting to see in my opinion. It is maybe not such an iconic machine like the later Commodore C64 for example, but still I like it and the games for it. If you're around my age, you might remember that home computer. If you're one of my younger subscribers, I can tell you that this was one of the more affordable entry-level computers back then at the beginning of the 1980s. Even I show you also old gaming consoles here on my channel. I was always more a computer guy back in the days. I was fascinated by the fact that you could write your own programs and games. This here was not my first home computer I ever owned, that was a Texas Instruments TI-99-4A, and I already showed that on my channel, and I also showed other computers like the Syncosat X81 for example, and I will link to playlists for that. The VIC-20 was not the first computer ever made by Commodore, but it was the first one that sold quite well. Before that they had a machine called Commodore PET, and after the VIC-20 the C64 came out. Because the VIC-20 had to be cheap, it was very limited and you had to buy separate expansions if you really wanted to write your own programs. Like most of the other 1980s home computers, it came with a built-in programming language called BASIC, and without any memory expansion you only had about 3.5 kilobytes of memory free in BASIC, which was not really much even back then. If you don't use BASIC and just load a machine code game into your computer, I think you could use more memory, I think up to 5 kilobytes on an unexpanded machine. So most people also bought a memory expansion and either super expensive floppy drive or a special data cassette recorder to store their programs and data. But besides all limitations, it was great that the machine could show color graphics, it had sound and a proper keyboard, and it was also a decent gaming machine for its time. The whole computer was built around the so-called VIC, and VIC stands for Video Interface Chip. You can read all the technical data, details and history on several web pages, so telling all of that here would be too long and boring in my opinion, as this should be an entertaining video and not a replacement for a web page or a book about the VIC-20. First, let's start with the basics. So here we see the European power supply, and on my version of the computer I could also use a C64 power supply instead. Those power supplies can be unreliable and even kill your computer, so I might build up a different solution in the future. Video output is standard composite, so it is easy to connect it, at least to older TVs and monitors, but I guess back in the days most people used the external video modulator and connected that to the RF input of their TV. You could buy ROM modules separately with programs and games, and here you see a few of the original titles I own. So you can put it in a slot at the back of your computer, connect the joystick, and you're ready to play some games. Next to the power plug and on-off switch, there is also one single joystick port for Atari compatible 9-pin joystick plugs, so even you got Commodore branded joysticks, you could connect much better ones as well. If you are still playing around with old home computers today, I can recommend to get one of those new Competition Pro joysticks with micro switches. You still can buy them today, for example, from individual computers in Germany, and I will put a link to the web store in the description text below. And just in case you want to see also parts of my classic joystick collection, I will put links to 2 of my older videos in the description text. There was a disk drive developed for the VIC-20, which was called VIC-1540, but you could also use one of the later disk drives for the C64, like the one you see here. Those disk drives were super slow, at least if you did not use some special additional software, and they were super expensive. There is basically a whole separate computer built up within the disk drive. Even I own several types of C64 drives. I never hooked one up to my VIC-20 computer so far, as I don't have any software on disk for that computer, and nowadays there are much better and more modern solutions available, but I will come to that later. Most people bought a tape recorder like this one here to store their programs. This is the 1530 dataset unit, and you could use it on the PET, VIC-20, C64 and maybe also other Commodore computers. Commodore built a special interface on their computers so that you could not use a normal cassette tape recorder you already had at home. You plug it in at the back of your computer, and the recorder is also powered over the same power supply then. You could even buy games on tape. They usually were cheaper than games on ROM cartridges, but in most cases those games were also quite limited, as companies that made and sold games tried to reach as many people as possible with their products, so most of the games on cassette were made for the unexpanded VIC-20, and it is not that easy to write good games that fit just into 4 to 5 kilobytes of memory. Still, like many of those games I've seen so far, the programmers did really a great job back then. Shall we load and try out one of those titles? Okay, let's try to load Phantom Attack then. So we put the tape into the recorder and press the play button, then we press the keys Shift and Run Stop on the computer, and the computer starts searching for the program, and we load it then into the memory, which will take a while now, usually a few minutes. You don't have to set any volume level on the recorder, there is not even a slider or a knob for that. You also don't hear the sound of the data on the tape like on the ZX Spectrum or TR-99 computer, for example, so I guess it could get complicated to find the beginning of the programs when having several programs behind each other on one single tape. Beside the text messages on the screen, you don't have any feedback that a program is loading. As this takes some time now, let me tell you about my computer here. I got 2 VC-20s in my collection with different colors of the function keys. One is from eBay and one was kindly donated by my friend Carl, and that machine looks much nicer than the one from eBay. Carl got this VC-20 from one of his friends, an older gentleman by the name of Peter, who unfortunately passed away already, and he was really taking care of his computer. It is still in nice condition. It is a real honor for me that I got it for my collection, and it got a nice place here in my little museum. The tape that is loading right now is from 1984 and the recorder from 1983, so at the time I made this video the whole equipment was already around 33 to 35 years old, so quite impressive that this is still working. This game was released by Mastertronic and it came out when the new and better C64 was already released, so even then the VIC-20 still was used as a gaming machine as it was much cheaper. This is some simple, fast and colorful space shooter game, but now let's do a jump cut as it would be too boring to wait now. The game was successfully loaded into the RAM and it started automatically, so let's see some random gameplay footage for Phantom Attack. If you are one of my younger viewers, you might say now, haha, that looks even worse than a Game Boy Advance game. And I would respond then that even the much older Game Boy Color was a real powerhouse compared to this old home computer here. So what we are looking at is basically a game from the pre-Nintendo era that had to fit into only 5 kilobytes of RAM, and for that I find it very colorful and entertaining, at least if you like hectic shooter games. Back then I always expected that games will look like movies one day in the future. Now the future is here and games really do look like movies, but you know what? I still like such old retro games much more. I don't have to watch a boring 20 minutes intro video to understand what the game is about. I don't have to learn what the 17 different buttons on the controller do. When I come home from work I can play something like that for 10 minutes and I don't have to invest several weeks or even months of my life just to play a computer game. And the best thing is, I don't have to waste my time with DRM spyware like Steam and other modern nonsense from hell that give me games for my money that I don't even really own. Anyway, as the VIC-20 cannot draw sprites by using the video hardware, all the sprites you see on the screen are generated by software only. What also came with the computer was a warranty card and a manual that tells you how to use the computer and how to use the programming language BASIC. This was quite usual with 1980s home computers, and even I learned BASIC with the manual that came with my TR-99 home computer back then. So obviously everything is in German language here, and the second book that is called Programmierhandbuch you could buy separately if you wanted to dive deeper into programming. This one is without colorful cartoon graphics, so it is in a different style than the manual for beginners. Next, let's have a look at the box for the system. So this is the version also sold here in Austria. They did call it VIC-20 instead of VIC-20, and the rumor is they did it as the original name would be too close to the German version of the F word. I did not know about such name differences before I had internet at home. I remember when I was going through the web around 1997 or something like that, I thought, what the hell is a VIC-20? It looks like a normal VC-20. Or what the hell is an Odyssey 2? It looks like a Philips video pack. Or also, Nintendo made a 3D console called Virtual Boy? Never heard about that. The box looks colorful, as it should look interesting also for a younger target group, and it should show the machine can draw color graphics. For many people, this was the first home computer they ever got, so even huge and expensive computers have been around a long time before a computer at home was a new thing. I also remember watching a TV show as a kid end of 1970s, and the host asked one of the guys there about his hobbies, and that guy said that he's playing around with his computer and writing his own programs. I was as much confused as the TV host about that answer, so what should it mean and what can it do with a computer? Later, around 1981, I saw another TV program where they showed the first home computers, and there was a VIC-20 with a program drawing a chart showing the price trend for potatoes, and I don't know why, but I found it interesting somehow. Well, and today on my modern laptop I can watch all price trends for all potatoes in the world in high resolution and 3D if I want. Yeah, welcome to the future. Also, the backside of the box looks very colorful, and I find the stock photos they used are quite funny, so you can use the computer for your job and even for science. The kid with his grandfather looks like he just found out he cannot really do much useful with his fancy new computer without buying expensive add-ons first. But the best thing is the scientist. If you look a bit closer, you clearly see that this is for sure not a real scientist, as he is using one of those cheap Chinese toy microscopes made out of plastic. Even my own microscope is a super professional instrument compared to that one on the photo, and I can assure you that I'm not the scientist. Should you ever wake up in a hospital after an accident and people there tell you that you are sick, but there are scientists that will help you and they are using such plastic toy microscopes, you know that you are in trouble. It might not even be a real hospital then, and maybe some mad people will do horrible experiments on you, so your day might end up like the typical summer vacation in North Korea. You know, people always like that it is so cheap when booking it, until they find out later it was so cheap because they don't need any return ticket. There were several different memory expansion models available. I don't have any original Commodore one, only that old third-party one developed by a company called Printtechnik. They had a store here in Austria, in Vienna, where you could buy electronic components and computer parts back then, and you could buy parts to build up that memory expansion yourself. It seems you could even put ROM models with software on that, but the whole board is not working anymore. At least I do not see more free memory space when I plug it in, but I don't need it anyway, as I have a modern memory expansion I will show later. What I will show you next could be quite interesting if you use old Commodore home computers today. This is basically a modern disk drive replacement with a SD card, the so-called SD2IC device. You can get several different versions from several different vendors. This one here I bought just recently for my C64, but I can use it also on my VIC-20. It is not a complete drive simulation like the 1541 Ultimate 2 for the C64, just in case you know that, but it is cheaper and works fine, and you can even have both VIC-20 and C64 programs on one single SD card. After starting a file browser, you can select the file you want to load, and you can play even newer homebrew games with that device. There are several modern expansion cards available for the VIC-20. I don't have a complete overview about the latest status, what is available, and different developers might have brought new expansions to the market in the meantime, but I would like to mention two solutions here I'm aware of. The first one is the so-called final expansion, and as I don't have that, I can only show you one webpage from Germany where you could order the device. It is basically a memory expansion with a SD2IC drive built in and a lot of neat features. Looks very interesting, but you can buy it only in kit form and only if it will be available in that store again. The second device I can show you in action as I have it. This is the so-called Mega Card, and this is a menu-driven multi-card with a memory expansion built in. This is not a kit, so you can order a complete device, and it is still available today. It comes with around 180 cartridge programs included and about 49 tape or disc programs, and there are even some homebrew games on that card. So those are quite some games and tools to go through, and if that is not enough for you, just connect the SD2IC you saw before or even a classic disk drive and start games from your drive, as there is also a file browser already included on the Mega Card. The final expansion is more for people that want to configure stuff themselves. The Mega Card here is more a plug-and-play solution. Just plug it in and play some great retro games, or just use it as a configurable RAM expansion. I will put a link in the description text to the webpage where you can order it. There you can also watch demo videos how to use the card and read a lot of details about it. At the end of this video I would like to mention that there are homebrew developers still making games for that system, like Reviver Studios and many others. But I cannot go into that now as this video is already quite long, but I would like to mention the VIC-20 Denial forum, where you can get an idea what is available and where to get it. The last thing I would like to show you here is a view inside the computer. The black heat sinks you see on some of the chips were not there originally. I installed them in the hope the computer will last a bit longer then, as some of those chips can get quite hot. Is it worth getting a VIC-20 for your collection? Well, if you want to get only one single 1980s home computer due to space and money limitations, it might be worth having a look at some other machines first, like the Commodore C64 or ZX Spectrum if you live in Europe, as you can get several thousands of games and programs for those machines. But if you like what you see here, it could be worth getting a VIC-20 or VC-20. I really like that machine. You always can try to find an emulator to test some games first, but playing around with the real classic hardware is of course much more interesting and fun. So I hope that was interesting and entertaining for you. Maybe one day I will make a video about some VIC-20 games. If you enjoyed the 3D effect in this video here, there is a whole playlist on my YouTube channel with other retro gaming related 3D videos, so find the link for that in the description text below. And I also have a 3D video playlist on my other YouTube channel where you can see some nice places here around my area in 3D. Please like, share and subscribe, say hello to us also on Facebook and feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching.